Good day, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. In the ongoing coverage of the continued conflict that is taking place inside of Ethiopia, I should actually call this instead of a conflict, which obviously it is indeed has morphed into a fairly significant civil war between a multitude of ethnic groups that seek to pull away from the current government of the Prosperity Party that is based in Addis Ababa. Now, the most heavy fighting, obviously, right now is occurring in and around the Tigray region. So, in terms of actual fighting in the Tigray region, it is taking place in western Tigray, obviously, and that would be the Western Front. There continues to be a significant uh, fight underway that is now taking place inside of the Amhara region. So again, the Tigrayan Defense Forces has proceeded to launch a counter invasion into the Amhara region and are really engaged along two significant fronts in the Amhara region. The first front being the current siege of Waldea, and we anticipate that could possibly resolve itself within possibly hours or even days. And I'll get to this issue of the strategy behind the sieges that are taking place, and instead of a direct assault on these cities and towns. Next, we have seen the Tigrayan Defense Forces maneuver very quickly from Waldea in a almost a northwesterly manner, seizing control of the town of Muja, proceeding down the Kulmesk Valley here, seizing obviously the town of Kulmesk, and now are looking to envelop Lalibela. And this is important. And we're seeing again the same tactics that have been used in other areas, Weldia, Debark, and now Lalibela as well. So Lalibela, while not, we have not seen a direct assault on Lalibela. We are indeed seeing that Lalibela is being cordoned off. And could there be an assault if negotiated terms of surrender are not met? Quite possibly. We'll have to see what occurs. I would say we would probably see more of an engagement in terms of heavy fighting for the seizure of the airbase that is southwest of Lalibela. And we are hearing reports that, in fact, that airbase may have fallen to the TDF. They are obviously conducting their classic maneuver strategy, where they are seizing terrain features around the airport, and eventually will look to eliminate any opposing force that is stationed in the airport. And we don't have a lot of information on what forces would be there. I had assumed that some of the forces that were inside of Weldia would have been used to reinforce Lalibela and other areas to prevent this TDF maneuver from taking over Lalibela. However, the internal squabble between the Amhara militias, I think, that are based inside of Weldia, not thinking about the grand strategy of what really needs to be done, looked to contain those Ethiopian army units inside of Weldia. And indeed, those Ethiopian army units and Amhara militia are now besieged, and they cannot leave. And eventually, as I talked to in a previous video, a direct engagement will occur in which they will probably run out of ammunition, and or then they will simply negotiate a surrender. But the same thing is occurring in Lalibela as well. The TDF are now quartering it off, making it difficult to leave the city, making it difficult to enter the city and bring supplies to the city. So that again continues to be the strategy of the TDF, and it prevents the loss of manpower. It prevents the destruction of civilian targets inside of the city. It prevents the killing of civilians, and keeps the TDF from causing the inhabitants of these areas to turn against the TDF, because obviously many people live inside of these besieged cities now. And then finally, inside of I would define it as the Gondar front. Realistically, the whole southern front could be, in fact, the Gondar front. If you look at it from a strategic point of view. Now, granted, I define this as the central front, and right now, Debar continues to be besieged, but we are also continuing to hear reports that Tigrayan defense units are indeed filtering further south from Debar and maneuvering themselves further south is their target to eventually encircle Dabat and continue to besiege these larger and larger cities of the Amhara region. Well, that would remain to be seen. But at some point, these sieges will have to resolve themselves. The TDF cannot simply advance and continue to advance deep into the Amhara region, simply besieging cities. They're eventually going to have to take control of these cities. As a continuation of these sieges would become very difficult for the TDF to continue to supply the units that are sieging the city, and obviously it takes a tremendous amount of manpower as well to blockade these cities as well, when those units could in fact be utilized to press further south. But right now, that is the situation on the central front. That is the central situation on the southeastern front. So, in terms of the Amhara region, I would define it as two fronts right now: the southeastern front and the central front. And at some point, these two fronts will merge into one frontal operation. There is a western front, which would be towards Amhara and the Sudanese border. However, again, we keep hearing on other channels that the Tigrayan Defense Forces were prevented from moving into western Tigray. That is not the case. The Tigray Defense Forces did not move a lot of combat power into western Tigray to attack western Tigray and evict the Eritrean and Amhara militia units and the remnants of the Ethiopian army. There was not a lot of combat power that was pressed into action and moved into the western areas. This was simply not done. Furthermore, the terrain is very flat in some places, and Eritrean mechanized units, the remnants of the Ethiopian army, some of its tank units would be able to engage the approaching TDF units from great distances and utilize some of their limited night fighting capabilities in this western approach. So again, the forces were just not brought to bear. I think eventually, as this conflict works itself out, I think we could actually probably see movements by the TDF towards the western border of Sudan with Ethiopia, and possibly a move or an attack from the south, and that could definitely occur at some point. We're a long way off from that point before the engagements in the Amhara region resolve themselves, and I think the whole idea behind the operation in the Amhara region is to get those forces in western Tigray to leave. At the same time, there is some punitive actions occurring as well for the occupation of the Tigray region. On the eastern front, which would be defined as the operations inside of Afar, again, these are limited operations. Not an immense amount of combat power was maneuvered into the Afar region. I would say it is a minor front. Right now, the major fronts, obviously, is the southern front inside the Amhara region, and then the northern front with Eritrea. This, again, is more of a holding action, as most of the combat power of the Tigrayan Defense Forces are faced along the central and the southeastern fronts. Again, holding action, limited reconnaissance in the western front, and limited action in the eastern front as well, while the primary routes of advance would appear to be into the Amhara region, with a possible focus on Gondar and other major cities inside of Ethiopia proper. But that is the situation as it sits right now. Again, fairly significant sieges are underway. Weldia, Lalibela, obviously, and then obviously Debark as well, and possibly one or two more cities within the next 2 to 3 days as well, before I think some of the forces of the TDF could be stretched a little bit, and they would have to actually fully secure some of these cities before they continue to move on. But that's the report for today. I bid everybody a good day.